Hello and welcome. We are back, SDHO 5. I hope you enjoyed the last SDHO. It was pretty good. The sound design hangout. Because, let's face it, I'm sure you can tell if you've watched my tutorials, my channel's a little bit different. I'm not just trying to wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and send you on your way and try to be as quick as possible, almost like I'm doing the tutorials just to get views, which is not the case. I'm like hanging out, talking. In a lot of my videos, I'm like, skip to the 5-minute mark if you don't want to hear me explain this stuff, you know? So these sound design hangouts, they're almost like more extended versions, you know, like you're like, oh, Lord of the Rings, extended cut or director's cut. You got that really long one, you know what I mean? So the people who really enjoy the thing and they want more of the thing, you know, that's kind of like the sound design hangout. And I kind of always knew I was going to have like a podcast, let's say. And that's kind of what this is. I mean, what really is a podcast? This is almost like a podcast on steroids, if you really think about it, because it's like multiple things in one. And who knows, maybe in the future I might bounce around and like throw in some Blender or some Final Cut Pro, which Final Cut is what I use to make all my videos. So today, as I've said, I like to kind of have a little bit of a topic. And I was out walking today with my dog Chonky, and boy, he really wanted to walk, and he took us very far. And I'm like, all right, if you want to walk, we want to walk. So I was doing a lot of thinking because I was outside for a long time, and I was like, what would a good topic be? And I thought sampler, but not just sampler, but exploring some of the deeper aspects of sampler. In fact, I'm going to go over one technique, not even a technique. I don't even know the right word to say, but I'm going to go over a certain function of sampler, which, dare I say, might be probably the least used section or quadrant of sampler. And it's actually like, it gives you sound design possibilities that are so powerful, I don't even think anyone knows. And that's the auxiliary envelope, which you can map to like so many things. I don't even use it. I like to think I like use every nook and cranny, but I was like, yeah, that'd be good, you know? And that's another one, probably the next SDHO, I'm going to go over one of my favorite devices, Wavetable, but like look at different hidden things. So if you're someone who's like, you know, considers yourself good at Wavetable, good at sampler, you know how to make your sounds, exploring little, I don't want to say hidden features because like they're not really hidden, but they're like features that you may not use or even really know exist because there's just so many things. So yeah, we're going to be doing more like sampler today, but before we get into sampler, because, you know, what do you put in a sampler? You're putting in some piece of audio. You're putting in a sample. Now, normally if you were to work with a sample, you might work with an audio track, okay? So how is it different? Well, when you throw down an MIDI track and you go to instruments and you throw down a sampler or a simpler, which if you saw my simpler video, you would know there's a lot of great stuff with simpler. I'm just going to start basically wherever your samples are. You know, you've got this sample folder, but I like to use my own folder because I like to work a lot with like atmospheres or ambiances, things that I basically just record out in the field, hence why they're most commonly referred to as found sound or field recordings. So these are all my And by the way, so just to let you know, when you look on this left-hand panel of Ableton, and I never really use these things up here, but I will at some point. Categories is really where all the meat and potatoes are of all of your stuff. But then you've got these places down here, which is basically allowing you to add folders on your hard drive or external hard drive, and you can add them here. Just so you don't have to like go searching through your computer for them and drop them into Ableton. You can just do it right here. So this is my own folder, Ken Sounds. Anyways, found sound. That's where I keep my found sound. And let's see here. So let's just click interesting sound, and let's do frog croaks. So normally, these are all pieces of audio, right? In Ableton, you either are working with audio or you're working with MIDI. So for instance, if you were to double click here, simpler, okay, MIDI, draw in the MIDI notes. Okay, we love MIDI notes. Okay, come in here and adjust velocities. Don't forget your velocities. Dude, velocities, if you're using MIDI effects, you're working with MIDI and you're not adjusting these velocities, not to put too much on your plate, especially if you're newer. But yeah, velocities are so darn important. So darn important. In fact, if you're going to be doing any drum programming with MIDI notes and you're not at some stage tweaking the velocities, man, it just ain't going to sound real. So that's just me being real. Okay. So in any event, we've got this frog's croak here. Now, why did I not just drop it into the simpler or drop it into the sampler? Which, by the way, you got the simpler here. You can right click, simpler to sampler, sampler back to simpler. Okay, it really doesn't matter. They're both the sampling devices that you have. I've got dedicated videos to simpler, which it seems like a lot of you guys liked. And then I also have one dedicated to sampler. So I want to cover what you would do first in audio and then bring it into the sampling realm. So we've got this piece of audio right here, and I'm going to push play. So I'm going to push this trigger up here to play it, and you're going to notice that warping is not on. So it's just going to play the sample all the way through, and when it gets to the end, it's just going to stop. In fact, you can't even loop it unless you warp it, and you're pretty much always going to have it warped. But because I just want to go very basic and build, we're going to start this way. So we're going to start in audio, and then I'm going to show you the limitations and then why you would probably rather play around with this in a sampling device, which is basically taking this audio and then getting it into the MIDI realm and basically benefiting from all of the extra abilities that playing with MIDI affords you. By the way, cheers to you, because you're learning and you're doing well and you're kicking ass. And if no one told you this today, you're doing a damn good job, even if no one's telling you about it. Cheers. I'll cheers to that. Apparently there's a reason for that. People are like, hey man, no one's really giving me my props. I'm doing a good job. Well, sometimes the universe will say, you need to just not expect those things and just keep plugging along and get your enjoyment from yourself, not from other people. It'll make you stronger and wiser. At least that's what they say. So let's push play. Frog croaks. I'm going to lower the gain here. Oh wow, didn't think that was going to be in there. Okay, let's push stop, because I'm not just going to let that play. I think you get the idea. So what would you do? Let's set some parameters. I'm a person, you're a person. Maybe you're an alien. Maybe you are a non-consciousness spirit that is in the room with me right now, a non-physical consciousness that is... Okay, so anyways. You want to do sound design. Or not even sound design. You just want to have fun, okay? You just want to have fun, and you were outside, springtime, it's getting warmer, and you noticed all the frogs like to croak in your neighborhood when the storm is about to set in. So you're out there, you're outside, you're in nature because you're really cool, you like nature, you're ahead of the curve. And you record this frog croaks, and now you get back and you want to throw it into Ableton. And you want to play around with Ableton's Warp engine to get some sound design capabilities. What do? Well, the first thing is you want to click Warp, okay? And now we can loop, which we weren't able to do before. And you've got these warp modes. Now, what's cool about this is, well, first of all, yours might be on beats. You might want to keep beats if you're warping audio that is beats, so like drums. I keep mine on repitch because it's my favorite warp mode, but maybe you would have yours on Complex or Complex Pro, which can be good. And I'm going to go over that first. And we'll move quick. So if you're like, hey man, I like the sound design hangouts, and you said sampler and I got super excited, well, we're getting there. Hold your horses, please. Because I think we're going to learn a lot more going slow and building up. So let's pretend you're on Complex. So this is going to play it back and it's going to sound just like it did. In fact, I'm going to move this in a little bit because I don't really want to hear the kid going, hey. So let's play. How funny is this? That was right where it was. Okie dokie. Let's see here. I'm going to move this in. So what can you do? Let's come over here to pitch. And I'm going to shift down arrow, move it down a pitch. By the way, if you were wondering why I didn't do Complex Pro instead of Complex, well, Complex Pro is good because you get these extra knobs, which I don't even know what these knobs do. Even when you read the description, like you don't really know anything. It just lets you tweak the final result. But I found straight out the gate, Complex actually just hits it on the head better. And if Complex doesn't sound good, I'll go to Complex Pro and tweak the knobs. But Complex is really good straight out the gate. So I'm going to play this really quickly here, the frogs croak, and then I'm going to pitch it down, and you can see how you can use that to your benefit for sound design when you're just using audio. So here we go first with no processing. Okay. Now let's put it down an octave. Ooh. So what might you do? Because when I put this into the MIDI realm, so I chuck it into the sampler, the sampling device, I can play it across the keyboard. Now I can't really do that here, right? Even though I clearly can shift this down. So what would you do? Well, if you come up here and you push Command D and duplicate it, maybe this one won't play all the way down. So now let's launch this clip. And let's bring down the fader all the way down. Let's slowly bring it up. Hear that? And maybe you might want to go into this one. Because right now, they're mostly... they're stereo, right? But, maybe let's give this one... And I'll rename this to, plus 12 or whatever. Because it's up an octave from the first one. So let me go into delay, drop a delay. So now we're giving this one some stereo width. So we could keep on doing that, So if I remove the first one and I mute it. Take out some lows, because we already have the lows in the other one. Peak this up, see if it gives it some good definition. Let's lower this down, and then slowly bring it up till it fits. So now we just have something that's extra interesting. And we can add more duplicated copies. I'm going to click both of these and do Command G to group them. And then on the group, I'm going to, let's see here, drop a glue compressor to glue them together. I always loved that glue compressor. Glue, why glue? It just, oh wow. Really have to crank this guy down. In fact, I'm going to go to utilities, drop utility, and just up the gain. Because I want this handle to move here. I'm going to put the release to automatic. And then I'm going to go to reverb, hybrid reverb. what you know, bigger spaces. Actually, that sounds really good. Parallel, so you hear both of them. Now it's just the convolution, now it's just the algorithm. Sounds pretty good. We're happy. Let's stop it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in and I'm going to take this frog's croak. I'm going to put the pitch back. I don't even think it really matters. And I'm going to drag and... actually, hold on. I want to do simpler first and then move on to sampler. So before I move into this simpler, we are going... I want to show you the first way that putting that big sample in a sampling device will actually give you a massive advantage. So I'm going to come in here and I'm actually just going to, I'm going to see if I can ungroup. I'm going to delete this second one and I'm going to play frog croaks and I'm going to let you know. So right here, frog croaks. Okay. It's playing back. I'm just going to put it to repitch. No change. Repitch only changes when you crank this baby down up here. See? So anyways, back at the default pitch, I'm actually going to bring the fader. I'm going to touch the fader and click delete, which moves it back up. Now, here's what happens, guys. In fact, I'm going to move this in. I'm going to loop a smaller section. Let's pretend you had a smaller sample and you weren't standing outside recording this for like 3 minutes. Like, dude, I really want to record these frog croaks, dude, but there's like this kid and this person across the lake, and like they keep talking. Oh, hey, Chonkush. I don't know if you can see my pug over there, Chonky. You know, if these people just stop talking across the lake, that would be great, so I could get more of the frogs, dude. You guys are bumming my frog buzz. So let's take a look at this. Listen to what happens when it loops over. You're gonna hear a little bit of a click. Let's see. Listen. Wasn't that noticeable? Sometimes more, sometimes not. So what we can do is, so that's kind of the thing. Sometimes you'll find when you really start getting like really specific about your sounds, you might you'll hear, even though the person listening is probably never gonna know, you'll be like, oh, I didn't like when it flipped over because there was like a noticeable dip. So what you can do is when you click on your sampling device and you throw it in, and look how nice that is for us. It kept that little thing. So now we've got the same thing. And by the way, you want to record enable and you want to play a C3. When you play a C3, you play the sample back at its default pitch, because you can play all up and down the keyboard. Not true. Why? Because simpler, which don't worry guys, we will get to sampler. If this has to be 2 hours, it will be. I don't know why that's a voice I'm doing a lot now. Cheers. I like doing voices. It just happens. Do you like doing voices? Put it in the comments. I'm kidding. You know, everyone says put it in the comments, you know. And so, like, it's a joke. Like, if I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, I went out on a walk with my dog and we walked too far. By the way, put it in the comments if you went on a walk with your dog and you walked too far and realized you walked too far, and then you started thinking about things and you got an idea for an SDHO. I'm feeling good today, guys, and I hope you are too, and I hope I'm giving you some goodness, because I love this stuff and I love all of you guys. So we play, and if we play it, oh, by the way, yeah, warp, your warp won't be on repitch. It knows I love repitch, so it does that. I would put it on complex, so now we can play it up and down the keyboard. Now we're in classic mode, as you guys know if you watched my simpler video. If we go to one-shot mode and we click a button, rather than doing the, you know, because in classic mode, if you hit a button, now in one-shot mode, you click once, now it's playing the whole thing. Look, my hands. Think about like a sample person who's like, yo man, I'm about to flip this sample. Ready? So if that's what you need, go to one shot. I'm doing classic. Now you might say something. You might say, hey, I've got a little question here. I'm gonna push stop because I don't want that to be playing. Okie dokie, you can stop playing now. Oh, you're just gonna keep on playing, aren't you? Yo, did you guys hear that train? It's so crazy. Did you guys hear that train? Yeah, it's a Sunday night. Everyone is getting ready to go to sleep, go to bed, but we're hanging out here making sounds. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Anyways, guys, so if I click a button here, now if I hold it down, it'll play. But I'm going to give it release, and so now if I click it, we'll get that. So if we want this to play, so we're going to come into here, and we're going to go to C3, and I'm going to duplicate this out because I think it's kind of long. I'm going to delete these guys, click this guy, and click legato, and I'm going to click play. Now, what you can do, and you actually have to turn warp off. See this fade? You can't use fade. I'm going to turn warp off. No change to the sound, no big deal. But now we can do this. Actually, turn off snap. And if we adjust the loop and the length, and we click up the fade, we get the ability to do this. So when you massage it correctly, you get a perfect loop. If that's what you wanted to do, and you can find it. Now you can be like, oh, I heard like a clicky click thing. And that's another thing too, when you play around with these parameters, your ears get like so much better. So I'm gonna stop this, and I'm gonna move this start, and I'm gonna move the fade. You gotta play with these parameters. You've got a lot more control in sampler, which is why I would normally use it. So this is basically the looped parameter, and when it loops, it will like cross fade it in. So right there, that would be a reason why. So it started there because we basically have to you can play multiple notes at the same time, so let's play 3 notes. So you got that. You got that. And so when it loops over, you get that crossfade. So when you've got this frog croaks here, or sample, if you want it to play, so for instance, like this sample might be like, I don't know, 50 seconds long. Let's just say a minute. But like you want to make this musical composition that's like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. Well, unless you have a whole bunch of loops playing, a lot of times when the loop kicks over, you'll get like a pop. Or someone will just know that maybe it looped over. And like, I don't know if you guys listen to like nature sounds on like YouTube, you know, maybe you like to work or meditate or just have it on while you're doing things. And they're like 10-hour long ones. And you know the person isn't recording. And sometimes they're not good with audio, so you can hear the looping thing. It's awful. But you guys are sound design, music producers, so you don't want that. So you can get away with it if you want, but when we come in here to this sampling realm, we take care of it with this. So we're going to right click and go to sampler. And so now we've got all of these extra sound design capabilities here, and I want to do some interesting stuff. So I'm actually going to delete our good old friend Frog Croaks because I don't think I want to use that sample anymore. I do like it, but I like nature sounds, but if I'm not in the mood for frogs or birds, because they have that like a high-pitched sound, it can sometimes sound a little bit annoying. So I'm actually just going to come in here and just straight up delete this. So I wanted to go show you simpler first, because if you're someone who doesn't have the full version of Ableton Live, which is Ableton Live Suite, you know, you don't have all these devices, you might have to work with audio tracks, and you might have to work with simpler. So I did that for you guys that don't have the full version, but now we're going to be doing sampler. So let's find some sort of a sample. I'll go into here, and let's see here. A roar pad. Let's do that one. So I'm going to play C3. We're going to give it some release. Got to go to Filter Global, give it some release. So when you hit a note, it trails. You know, I don't want to just hit a note. I mean, yeah, I can hold it down, but when I release, we get that. So let's give it more release. Okay, now what are we going to do? I'm going to go to loop. We're going to loop it. And I want the loop to maybe start somewhere around here. And maybe I'll bring it in here. And I'm going to bring in the start so we get this. Hear the loop over. Let's lower the volume. You have to actually like re-trigger it for the volume to take effect. So see that crossfade? We got the crossfade now. See, with the crossfade, that happens. So you can't hear it without. Got the click. Why does it keep playing right now? Why is it trailing off? Because I've got that release. You know we love the release on here. Yes, we do. Go back to sample. So let's give it that beautiful crossfade. Now you can still hear it kind of going over, so that's why you may want to like experiment, add it out a little bit. Now I'm going to go back into Filter Global and give it a little bit of an attack because it's a little bit too abrupt. So without. Okay, hear that? But now with the attack. By the way, this is volume. So this is basically saying what the volume is doing. This is the volume envelope. This whole thing is the volume. Beautiful. Let's go to... I don't know. I'm not seeing it here. Go to pitch. You can shift down arrow. Moody. Let's do something interesting. Remember I said we would get into areas that are not so much explored? Cheers. Drop a like if you like hanging out and you like the sound design hangouts. Possibly just as much as you like the straightforward tutorials. Let me know. If you dare. Let's come over here to modulation. Now what we can do, let's do LFO1 and LFO2, because LFO2 you can choose some crazy parameters. And I've got an extra special one that you may not have ever used. In fact, I want to start there first. Let's turn off LFO2. So by the way, they're not engaged until you click them on. I want to figure out which one it is. So you got loop start, loop length, and then you've got sample offset. And one of them, I'm not sure which one, we'll figure it out together because we're going to use our ears, which is probably one of the most important sound design techniques, is you got to use your ears. So when I play this, in fact, I'm going to go back into the pitch and I'm going to put it back. If I move this, it won't have that much of an effect, but when we move this, we're moving the loop. So if we come into here to modulation and we go to loop length, by the way, turn off retrig and add, this is how much effect. Let's see what it'll do to our sound. It might not do a lot because this is so tonal. It's going to take that loop and it's going to move how long the loop is, the loop length. So that'll give a nice subtle modulation to our sound. But because our sound is like very pitched, it might not have much of an impact. And I can give you an example of when this would work. Now, why am I even showing you this technique? Because not many people know about it, and it can give you amazing results. It's actually very similar to what you do in wavetable when you morph through the wavetable. But in wavetable, every time you morph through, it stays in key, right? Or it stays in that tone. Like, so if it's an A, it stays in A. But when we do this effect, depending on what source material we use, it will change the pitch, which might be very atonal and won't sound good. But let's just see. Without, now let's crank it all the way up and see if it sounds different. A little bit of movement. 100. Okay, that's kind of a bad example because what it's doing is it's moving this, but because this is basically like the same sound, we're not hearing the effect. So let's do something different. We're gonna keep this sample though. Oh, we are gonna keep this sample, baby. Okay, here we go. Let's do link, so it links them up. Let's go in very, very, very tight. Hear that? Now turn off LFO 2. I bet you it doesn't do that sound. Ready? Listen to that. It's doing that, but it doesn't. But it's not showing us that it's doing that. Let's make it even tighter. Then you get a pitch. Check this out, audio effects. This is one of the coolest techniques you can do, and we definitely cover that in my sampler tutorial. And if you didn't watch that, go back and watch it. If you want to. If you want to, you don't have to. Spectrum. So check this out. So we go high, you got that. But watch what happens when we go in. Let's move it in more. Going to filter global. I'm going to come in a sample and I'm going to turn off the crossfade for now. Ooh, now okay. Now we got more of a pitch sound. That's a unique sound no one has, and that's why this is a very powerful technique. So let's go back to modulation. Now get ready, because here's what's going to happen. So look at this. So we're getting an A note. Okay? We're getting a nice A note. Watch what happens when I move this. Command Z to undo. But what if we did that a little bit? So check this out. So this is at 100%. But what if we did a little bit? And actually, turn this frequency way down. The pitch. Let's move it down, let's move it down, let's move it down, let's move it down. A little bit. Little dab will do ya. But now listen. Turn it off. Oh, by the way, I'm going to come into Filter Global, and I'm going to take this down so we don't kill our ears. This is just taking out some of the highs. So here it is right now. In fact, let's go into pitch and modulation. Let's drop a chorus. This is just a low pass filter. Drop the rate down a little bit because that's just what I like. Now, so we got this nice clear cut A note. In fact, let's go into pitch and transpose it down. Sounds nice. It already has some movement. a little bit of movement. But watch what happens when we bring back our super friend loop start. So again, it's going to take this loop and it's going to... So it has to just do it a tiny bit or it'll be obnoxious. So let's just go full bore and keep it 100%. But let's just put one. Ready? Just a little bit, just a little bit. So that's just something cool you can do. Just a little bit. And then if we go back to LFO1, let's turn retrig off. And let's do a little bit of pitch. We don't want 0.5. Let's do this. So basically, when we are modulating this loop length in this particular, by the way, this is the whole sample. This is how small we are going here. That's how we're doing this. And again, if you're not able to do the loop thing, come over here to this sustain mode. So, okay, going back to, where were we? Modulation. Just a little bit. Now we're going to do the pitch. So when we are modulating here the loop length, as I've said, we are moving this. Now, it's doing that behind the scenes, but it's not showing us that. And what that's effectively doing is it's changing the pitch. But what if we did LFO2 and changed the pitch in a different way? Could we get an interesting sound? Let's do it without and let's do it with. See, a little bit. In fact, I'm going to lower this. Just a subtle drift. Now let's add some of this pitch. Okay, it's too much. I just wanted to make sure we could hear it. It's too much. Let's choose it to random. Put some on pan, a little bit on volume, a little bit on filter. I'm just going to turn it off loop length. Doesn't sound good. I just wanted to show you that that was a possibility. So that was a technique. Another thing you can do, so we were modulating loop start. We were doing loop length. So again, it's modulating the length of this. But if you want to experiment, my good friends, you can also do loop start. So it will, let's just see if we can get it. It might not do what I want, but let's just see. Let's turn LFO2 back. So now it's like, actually sounds pretty cool. Let's turn up the attack. Let the effect fade in. Actually, I really like that. I'm glad I did that. The other one you might want to experiment with, but it won't be as relevant to this sound because it's so darn small, is if you come into modulation and you do sample offset, it's not going to have any effect. So right now, if you turn it all the way up, it won't have any effect. If you go back into sample and... Oh my god, it is. See it? It's saying where in the sample will we play. So it's... See how like I'm hitting the button and it's jumping around because it believes... So right now it says our sample... we have a loop here, but see this... wow, this is long. See this thing over here? It's going to randomly choose a spot. And each time it plays, it's going to keep doing that. It's going to choose a different spot. Now you might think, dude, this is crazy. Like, how did you ever, know that this was a thing? How did you know? I'm going to turn it off. Well, you asked some very good questions, so feel good about yourself. I asked myself, when I started seeing these techniques, I was like, I don't know if I could just recreate that in Operator, if I could just recreate that in Analog. I don't know if I could do that. The kind of sounds that you can get using this technique in samplers, because you come up with the most wild and unusual sounds. And what's really cool about when you use a sampler in this way, it obviously has to be a very capable and robust and powerful sampler, obviously, but you can get sounds that you never knew you were going to get. So I think people just needed it to do these things, to get these crazy sounds. And yeah, and if you just didn't know and no one told you this, you just wouldn't know. So here's what we got. I just wanted to turn that off because I want the sound to be a bit more predictable. By the way, it's ringing because we've got this release over here. By the way, let's play with this filter. So in sound design, you want to do subtle movements. Because you ever wonder why a car horn or like a dial tone sound or a beeping sound or like a police siren sounds so awful? Is because it's one note, pitch, no movement, just it sounds horrible, but that sounds good if you put some movement to it. So that same note, it's basically what a filter does. Listen. So right now you're like, oh dude, that's so annoying. Or maybe you do like it. That little bit of movement makes it so nice. Now what would you do? You'd go to modulators and you... Although we're already moving it here, this LFO with these tiny little amounts, it just gives it a little bit of unpredictability, but to just sort of give you a better representation. And I'm actually going to come into here and do modulators and drop the LFO because I want visual feedback. So remember I told you that when you use these, it's not actually giving you visual feedback here, meaning it's not showing this happening. And when you modulate the filter, it's not moving, although it is. It's just not showing you this in the graphical display here. So that's why we use this LFO. Lower the depth. Lower the rate. It's too much depth. Lower that depth. I just want a little bit, just to give it movement. You could almost say to give it enough movement that you don't even know it's moving. Now we have this filter envelope here, and we don't even need it. Which, first of all, it wasn't doing anything anyway because you needed an amount here. But if you wanted, you could give it an attack. And if you want anything to play, let's draw out the decay. Give it an amount. So right now, nothing. Okay, turn off. Nothing's happening. Nothing will happen until amount goes up. So let's see what it sounds like now. Give it some release. Now what we're going to have to do is to make this, we're not hearing anything because if we lower the, here, let's turn off the LFO. Now listen. Put it down lower. I don't know why I can't lower this frequency. So that's what we can do with the filter frequency, but I don't need it. I'm going to go back to my good old LFO, and I have to go figure out what parameters I use, but that's okay. That's definitely okay. So you can do that, but I just wanted to show that briefly. Get this rate back down. By the way, let's put a filter drive on there to give it a little bit more beef, because we love beef on this channel. We're beefy on this channel. We are very, very beefy. A little bit of jitter, so it's not a perfect sine wave. And then the one thing I really wanted to show you, amazing people, actually two things. Two things. Wait a second. Oh, there it is. There's the aux envelope. We'll get there last. Okay, come into the pitch oscillator. And we've got this oscillator and we've got this pitch envelope. Now you're going to see these are some of the other hidden features. So what were the hidden features? Let's do a recap before we get on to those more esoteric areas of sampler. And if you already knew that those were the hidden areas, which they're not hidden because they're right here, they have their own tab, but you know what I mean, like the areas like you just wouldn't typically use unless you knew what they did, you know? Let's click pitch envelope. Nothing's going to happen until you do this. Let's do 12. Actually, no, let's do 3. Hear the pitch? Let's drag out the decay. It's very subtle. Let's do it again. Now let's do this. Let's do a chord. I don't really do it a whole lot because, like, kind of like what we were doing back here, when you do that with pitch, it's very strong. It's very strong. I'm going to add the attack. Oscillator. This will mix in a sine wave and give us frequency modulation. What I found is good is if you give it a nice attack. Now you won't hear anything. Actually, you do hear something, but you have to turn up this volume. Ready? Now listen to what you hear. It can get pretty crazy. I'm going to drop the attack. Hear how crazy it is? Watch, if you put something with more harmonics, it'll get even crazier. Could also put fixed and choose what frequency tone you want to modulate the signal with. Let's get rid of the attack and see what this sounds like. Sounds kind of good. A little bit too intense. Let's go back to sine wave. Let's turn it all the way up and get super crazy with it. Can barely hear it. Let's add some release. Oh, it sounds so much better now. We need to do release. Let's drop the volume to nothing. Do a little bit. Ooh, that sounds good. I'm going to deactivate it for now because I want to do one more thing and I want to really hear its effect. Go to modulation. I will tell you this is probably the least used section. This is an auxiliary envelope. Click it, and now you've got an envelope that you can map to anything. So let's do, like, I don't know, panorama, which is pan, which is what side of the stereo spectrum. And it's going to start high and go low, which means it'll probably start on the left and go to the right, or it'll probably start on the right and go to the left. Now, without, here's what it sounds like, and we'll see if it makes a difference to our sound. This is without. Now let's add it all the way up. right ear. It's going to the left ear. Pretty cool, right? Let's drop the decay a little bit. Now it's starting on the right ear, going to the left ear. Let's try something different. Let's see what time is. I don't even know what time is. Without. I don't like that start. Let's give it more attack. Let's put our oscillator back. Give it an attack because it's too strong at the start. Ooh, yeah. That's what we like. Wow, that's pretty crazy, isn't it? Let's put our filter envelope back, see what we got there. Lower this amount, that's way... 72 is as high as you can go. Why they chose 72, I don't know. Okay, hear that? It's because this is too high. Actually, let's just turn oscillator off. And let's go back into modulation and we got our option B. So let's do pitch and let's give it an attack so the pitch will change over time. Let's see what this sounds like. You have to add an amount. The pitch. It should dip down soon because it's going up 20 seconds, the full amount. It should go down soon, I would. There we go. Let's throw up this time here and let's restart it. Maybe we don't want time. Let's do LFO1 rate. So we got this LFO1 rate here. It's gonna change it like that. Let's see what we got. Let's turn it up all the way. Doesn't it sound like a plane or something, like flying overhead? You're like, oh, I'm outside, there's a plane. Let's play it as a chord, multiple notes. Let's put oscillator back on. Let's jack up the volume, give it more attack. Let's do noise. Lower the volume. It's basically the volume of the effect of this. That's weird, isn't it? It's because we got noise. Put the pitch on, get a really long decay, and let's do a long release. Let's turn this stuff off. Now it'll be confined to this area, it won't bounce out. Yeah, this is starting to annoy me. Let's turn all this off. Let's go into here and let's turn the pitch way down so it's very subtle. So yeah, that's kind of it. I guess I just really felt like, and then yeah, there's the MIDI page. It's not really hidden. I don't use it a whole lot. That's where you can just really get extra expressive with your playing on a keyboard or whatever. So these are some things to keep in mind. So you've got the sample tab right here. We got this huge sample. We basically just for this technique, we looped a very small part of that frog, oh no, excuse me, of Aurora pad, whatever that is. And it gave us this really unique sound. Let's just turn all of this stuff off. Let's just turn it all off and play a note. So the pitch oscillator tab, you don't need to use any of it. If you want to come to transpose and transpose it down, transpose it down again. The filter global, this is volume, so like how do you want the volume to be? You know, volume, and then filter. Let's click this tab. Let's map this to the drive. Lower down this 100% so it doesn't go so darn high. So yeah, you'll probably use, you're always going to use this sample tab to set this up. Pitch oscillator you probably won't use unless you want to do this. If you got drums and it doesn't have enough pitch, you can add like a very quick pitch envelope to make it a little bit punchier. Otherwise, you probably won't use this. So even when you have this turned off, you can still use these parameters right here, which most of the time you'll just be using transpose if you want it like lower like I did. But you can also drop this MIDI effect pitch to do the same thing. So you don't really even have to worry about pitch oscillator tab if you don't want to and it's giving you anxiety, because I don't want you guys to have any anxiety. Filter global tab, that's where you could do your filter right in here. You got your filter envelope if that's something you want. You've got the volume here. You're always going to be playing with the volume envelopes. So you will be in here a lot. And then modulation, honestly, just coming into LFO 1 and giving like slight modulations to the volume, filter, pitch, and pan so it's not static, but it moves without. It's just like very subtle. So if we jack up the frequency. So one thing you might do, because it's a sine wave, it's doing this to these main areas. So if you turn on LFO3 and you go LFO1 rate, it'll modulate this rate so it won't be a perfect sine wave, which is basically kind of what this jitter does. Because if jitter's at 0, if jitter's at 0, I'm just doing this just for graphical reasons. See, like, it's going to do that to the sound, but if you give it a little bit of a jitter, it's not a perfect sine wave. See how it changes? See how it changes? God, this is so cool. Just looking at this is so cool. That's why this LFO, this is so great. Now, the same thing is happening in here. You know what I mean? If you were to go over to here and you were to select frequency, wherever frequency is, I can't even find it. Meaning like you could have this one doing frequency, but then this one could also be doing frequency. Where's frequency? Filter frequency. This is crazy. See, that's about it. I don't know how long this is right now. It's like an hour so far from me, which I think has probably been the longest one. These are 4K. Whenever I do my editing on Final Cut Pro, it like, you make any adjustments and it balloons up to like a 400 gigabyte video thing, and I have to keep deleting the render files. So yeah, this is going to be interesting to edit. I'm going to turn this down. This thing's freaking me out right now. Let's make you slow and chilled out. Woo! Beautiful. Man, that stuff's so good. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you enjoyed hanging out, man, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging out with me. I thought I kind of want to just like hear that? The train's back. Oh my God, guys. Dude, we're really having an intimate moment. I started, the train played. I ended, the train played. Kind of interesting. I knew way back in the past. Ain't there something about hearing a train sound? And by the way, I don't live right next to the train tracks. It's probably like 5 miles that way. But it carries across the night, you know? Foreshadowing. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. I love watching these things move. Let's just go in here and map it to attack. And map this to attack. And map this to sustain. Like, look at that. Isn't that so cool? You feel like you're some, like, sound scientist. Oh, wait. We are sound scientists. Drop a like below if you know that you're a sound scientist. Or if you're just a scientist. Anyways, guys, that's really it. I got really excited because I thought this would be like a really good. I thought this would be like a really good topic. I didn't want to just make a video and be like, oh, you know, I wanted to talk about some of these lesser known areas. And to be honest with you guys, that's hurting my brain. I wanted to talk about these lesser known areas of sampler. And I think perhaps the next SDHO, I'm going to dive into probably my favorite device right now that I haven't used since I made the tutorial like a month and a half ago, Wavetable. Because there's hidden, I don't want to say hidden areas of Wavetable because like it's not hidden, but there's just areas of Wavetable that if you don't really know Wavetable, you're probably not going to use. And using, like, you literally could use Wavetable on default, which is a sine wave, not even tweak the Wavetable at all, and use these unusual areas of Wavetable to get amazing sounds, and you're only using a sine wave, which just shows you how powerful these devices are. And once you know how powerful they are, you're going to have a lot of fun. So guys, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed hanging out. I enjoyed hanging out with you. I hate to say it again, but please like, comment, and subscribe because it gets out to more people when that happens. And it does definitely seem like you guys are enjoying this. Also, if you have an idea for like a next tutorial, please let me know. That would be really, really cool. If you would like to let me know a tutorial you'd like to see. I've covered all the main things that I wanted to make. I do have the riser tutorial coming out soon, which if you want to know more about risers right now, just go watch SDHO 4. I get into that after a good 10 minutes of talking. But I'm thinking about what are my next tutorials going to be because I covered all of the main instruments and even covered instrument racks, which is like how to take it all to the next level. So I thought I saw a weird light going outside my house, getting spooky. We got trains, we've got lights going on, we've got alien extraterrestrial activity happening in the skies, checking out on us, saying the new golden age is here, tap into the higher states of consciousness. We are all with you. We love you. We are rising. We are raising. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm getting all rhythmical with what I'm saying because I'm feeling good. I'm feeling happy. I love Ableton. I hope you are too. Have a great night. Maybe this will be the outro. Guys, thank you so much.